Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're not just explaining a topic, we're explaining how to explain. And to do that, we're going to tackle one of the biggest ideas out there. I mean, really, think about it. How do you explain forever? How do you grab a concept that's so massive, so absolutely mind-bending that it almost short-circuits your brain, and then make it make sense? How do you even begin to tell a story about eternity? Well, to figure that out, we're going to use a massive what if as our case study. In fact, maybe the biggest what if of all time, human immortality. And this isn't just about the science, not really. It's about how you frame the entire conversation. See, when you're wrestling with something this huge, you can't just throw a bunch of facts on a screen and call it a day. It doesn't work. You need a blueprint, right? A kind of storyteller's guide for building a narrative that actually connects with people on a real human level. Okay, so rule number one, you've got to show the real struggle. Don't fake perfection. When you're talking about something like forever, pretending you've got all the easy answers is just a huge mistake. The best stories, the ones that stick with you, they lean into the conflict. They embrace the tough questions. That's what makes them feel genuine. Next up, you have to think about the emotional journey you're taking people on. A massive idea like this can be pretty intimidating. So you use tools like cinematic music to kind of guide the mood, moving people from, say, quiet reflection to a feeling of hope or maybe even urgency. And it's the exact same thing with visuals. You can tell a whole story just through color and contrast. You know, those warm sunrise tones, they can signal hope, new beginnings. And then you have the dark nighttime blues. Those can bring out the challenges, the mysteries, all the complexities of the idea. And finally, and this is so important, you have to guide people's focus. When a topic is this big, it's easy to get lost. So you need to create a kind of visual roadmap, making sure you highlight the absolute keywords and takeaways so that the core message doesn't get buried. All right, so we've got our blueprint. Now for the fun part. Let's actually apply these rules and see if we can build a really compelling story around the science and the ethics of living forever. Okay, let's start with that first rule again. Show the real struggle. And believe me, when it comes to immortality, we absolutely cannot pretend this is simple. And here it is, the central conflict. On one hand, you acknowledge the incredible progress science is making, but then you put that right up against the sheer, mind-boggling scale of the ultimate goal. That massive gap, the one between where we are now and the idea of forever, that's the real struggle you have to show. And look, the progress is definitely real. I mean, scientists are making amazing breakthroughs in things like anti-aging medicine, gene editing, you name it. They're pushing the boundaries of what a human lifespan can be. Technology is getting better every single year, and we're already living longer than at any point in history. So that's the foundation of our story, the part that's grounded in reality. But then you introduce a totally different kind of struggle. This one isn't just scientific, it's philosophical. It's that question, if you could upload your mind, right? Save every single memory forever in a machine. Is that still you? Is that real immortality? Or did you just create a perfect digital copy while the original you is gone? Posing that question, well, that adds this really deep personal layer to the whole conflict. And a question that personal and philosophical, it immediately blows up into a societal one. So let's talk about how we can frame a future that could be so completely different from anything we know, a future that has both incredible promise and incredible peril. And how do we do that? Well, let's go back to our blueprint. We can frame this whole future by using the power of contrast, showing both sides of the coin. So on one side, you have that warm sunrise picture. It's this amazing new era where your memories are saved forever and people are living longer, healthier lives. But a good story demands that you also show the dark night side of things, the very real possibility of overpopulation, of resources running out, and a society completely fractured between those who are mortal and those who are immortal. And that dark side, it's not just some vague, scary idea. It would have very specific, cascading effects. I mean, overpopulation would strain all our resources. The economy would probably grind to a halt because jobs would become so limited. Governments could become totally stagnant, with power staying in the same hands for hundreds of years. And conflict, wow, wars could literally become endless. Society as we know it would just fundamentally change. Which brings us to this really profound, kind of counterintuitive idea. For all our fear of it, it turns out death, well, it plays a vital role. It makes way for new ideas, new people, it shifts power, it forces us to change. In a strange way, it's what keeps the world in this very delicate balance. So after all that, what's the big takeaway? We've walked through the science, the philosophy, the huge consequences of immortality, and we did it all using that storyteller's blueprint. And the final takeaway is this. Our job when we're trying to explain something isn't just to list off a bunch of information. It's to build a narrative. It's to turn all that complex data into something with real human meaning. It's about showing the struggle, framing what's at stake, and actually making people feel the weight of an idea. You know, it's funny. After exploring this idea of the infinite, our story lands on a very simple, very human conclusion. Maybe the goal of this whole grand scientific quest isn't actually to live forever. Maybe it's just to live better, to enrich the life we have right here, right now. And that leaves us with one final thought. We've used this blueprint to tackle immortality, but you could apply it to pretty much any complex topic out there. So the question for you is, what's the next big idea, the next world-changing challenge that's just waiting for someone to finally tell its story the right way?